All right, well, I think we might get started there. We've only got half an hour, so we'll get things kicked off. So, firstly, thanks for joining, everybody. Those of you who don't know me, my name's Jason La Macchia. I'm Managing Director of eStorm Australia. I'll just get some housekeeping out of the road. So we'll be recording this webinar. So if you want a copy, just reach out and we'll be happy to share it with you. We'll also be running a bit of a Q&A session afterwards. So feel free to type any questions in the chat there. We'll be able to answer those. On the call as well as John Baker, who's General Manager in our local security expert, so to speak. So he'll be on hand to answer any questions towards the end. So this webinar essentially is just to share my learnings from the cybersecurity conference I recently attended in Melbourne last month. And it's important to let you guys know that this isn't my material. So this is what I learned from the sessions that I attended, and it is what the experts presented to the audience. So I've just picked what I thought is important and put it into this webinar. All right, so a bit about the AISA Cybersecurity Conference. It's the largest conference held in Australia for cybersecurity, and this one was the first one held in person since COVID. So it attracts keynote speakers from around the world. This year they had like Dylan Olcott, Steve Wozniak, Julia Bishop, Aaron Brockovich. They had Sully, the guy that landed the plane in the Hudson River, among other cybersecurity experts. In addition to that, the keynote speakers weren't I guess you'd say cybersecurity experts. Well, some of them were, some of them weren't, which I found refreshing, to be honest, because the other sessions for the 3 days were basically just constant cybersecurity sessions. So they ran hundreds of them over the 3 days and different tracks. And that was basically from technical sessions. People were doing their technical accreditations. There was cloud cybersecurity tracks. But the tracks I focused on was small, medium enterprise and at the board level, because that's the types of conversations that we're having with our clients. And also it's a high level awareness, I think, that people are struggling with at the moment in terms of cybersecurity. So I'll start off with the current landscape. So at the moment, SMB is definitely not immune. So 50% of all cyber attacks are done on small, medium business. That said, larger enterprise tend to be targeted more. There was a couple of specialists there that I heard, I think, in a couple of sessions, basically saying that there's two types of large enterprises: the ones that have been attacked and the ones that don't know they've been attacked. So it gives you an idea of how common it is now for companies to have cybersecurity breaches. So when that happens, 32% of companies pay the ransom, 65% get their data back. So that's an interesting statistic, because I thought more people would get their money back if they've paid the ransom. And the reason is that the attackers want their threats to be legitimate. And if they don't pay if they don't give the data back, then people will stop paying the ransom. So that was a bit lower than I thought. 77% of companies don't have an incident response plan. And I think this is where businesses are focused on prevention, not so much what happens if they have a breach and how they mitigate the consequences of that breach. And that's something that I think we'll see change in future years. 50% of breaches go undetected for the first 100 days. So the hackers are getting online, they're getting access to company data. They're going through, seeing who the important people are, seeing where they can get the best bang for buck, essentially, before they're exposing themselves and letting companies know that they've been attacked. So there's some sort of, I guess, some facts around the current landscape. The other thing that was interesting is there's these marketplaces popping up online on the dark web, and that's basically what's happened. Hackers are getting access to company data, but they're not always the ones that are then holding the company to ransom. And we've got a couple of good examples of that at the moment, because I think I read an article yesterday about someone who's been arrested in Sydney for holding someone for ransom over Optus data breach, but they're not the hacker. So they've gone online and they've purchased the data from the hacker. And then you've got the other side of it, which I think what we're seeing with Medibank at the moment, where the hackers are actually the ones holding the company for ransom. But if you go online on the dark web, you can literally buy these services in a marketplace. And you know, there's stories now where I heard one person was saying, like, they've got they know of young people playing games and they're jumping online. They're buying a denial of service attack and letting it loose on their mate who's playing a game so they get the upper hand. So, you know, that sort of stuff is becoming quite commonplace. And it's cheap, as you can see. A lot of it's cheap. Some of it is more expensive, but a lot of it is cheap. All right, so what can we do about it? So the Essential 8 was referred to a fair bit, and this is something that I know in eStorm that we've been talking about to our clients for some time, but it's obviously something that the experts are recommending as well. So there's 3 maturity levels. We can share the links to the government, the website that explains those levels. And look, for the most part, what we like about the Essential 8 is the majority of the requirements are ticked off by typical IT support. So, and the difference is quite substantial. You'll see they're getting data that says it mitigates risk by up to 85%. I won't go through them all. We have a few videos on our YouTube channel. Mel, our marketing coordinator, she went through and she created the 8 weeks of the Essential 8. So if you really want to have an explanation of what every one of them means, then please jump on and have a look. I do want to touch on a couple of them. One is MFA. So, you know, everyone will know what that is. If you get an opportunity to turn it on, please do so. It's available now with nearly all applications that you subscribe to. So it's definitely worthwhile turning that on. The other one, administrative privileges, which we're starting to try and push out to a lot of our clients. Basically, what that means is that, and I run it on my machine, so I don't run as administrator. I run as a typical standard user on my machine. What that means is if I want to install a program, it will pop up and ask for my administrator credentials. I know what they are, so I can type them in and install a program whenever I want. So it's not a massive inconvenience. It's literally I just have to type in my admin credentials, install a program, and that's it. The benefit of that is if for some reason that would pop up and I don't intend on installing any application, then that should ring alarm bells that there's a chance that my machine's been compromised, and I need to do further investigation. So there are a couple of things that you know, I just thought I'd mention. To really move through the levels beyond just standard IT support, it's a good idea to put in place a mobile device management solution, and that gives you a better granularity on controlling end user devices and making sure that there's no leaks on staff computers. Right. So I think probably the biggest takeaway from the conference was this concept of this people firewall, which I actually really like. So the last conference I went to was about 6 years ago. 6 years ago, and it was at the time when people were investing millions of dollars. They were moving, everything was moved to the cloud, but they were investing millions of dollars in cybersecurity. But they were still having these breaches. So we still had like the Sony breach. There was a Target breach in America as well. And these were companies that were supposed to be leaders in cybersecurity, but they were still having these problems. And what it is that there's a certain point where you get to with cybersecurity that it becomes a hindrance on productivity. So the attention turned to training staff and making them aware of what cybersecurity is. And that has evolved a fair bit in the last 3 or 4 years, especially since people's moved to work from home since COVID. So there's a couple of things around it. There's educating people on what cybersecurity is, and then there's also good examples of training is running phishing simulation campaigns. So in the past, that was something that you'd have to subscribe to. There were costs, but there are free ones now. The key is that if you start running them, they need to be run regularly. So I heard people running them weekly. There were some speakers from NAB. They were running them. Pretty much had someone dedicated to running phishing simulation campaigns, and so it's making someone take ownership of it, and then creating the campaigns in a way that really are tailored. So you can get towards spear phishing, which is targeting information that's relevant to the end user. So that's something to think about beyond that essential 8. So the next thing that we start to hear things about is EDR, or endpoint detection and response. So it's going beyond your typical antivirus, where an antivirus on your machine, it'll pick up if there's a file that's virus, malicious, and quarantine that. EDR, endpoint detection and response, takes it the next level, where data will be being sent to a central location, monitoring end user devices, and if there is a breach, it will send that data to that central location. So then you have a team that can respond to that. The software is getting smarter. There's a lot of automations that you can have around it, but there still is a somewhat of a human element to responding to that. So that's that next level, and that starts to move into, I guess, moving towards more of a security operations center. So you can start to incur more costs than you would typically do so in general IT management, moving towards endpoint detection and response. The next thing we're starting to see a lot of is SEMEs, so security information event management systems. So this takes that endpoint detection and response, and I guess escalates it into a whole network approach. So you're taking logs for any activity that's happening over your network, end user devices, the whole lot, bringing in all that information. From that information, you can create create alerts that trigger if certain events happen. For example, if you're based in Australia and you maybe have overseas workers in America, but that's it. But then you start having people trying to log in from Russia, from China, or somewhere else overseas. So you can create alerts, and then you can mitigate potential risks before they happen, or breaches before they happen. The other thing is it also helps if there is a breach. So you'll be able to gather logs to see perhaps what hackers are doing. If there's odd events happening, that could be where that 100 days or 200 days where hackers are online, that you can start to, they may trigger something that generates an alert. A user who we think is a general staff member, may trigger an alert for doing unusual activity, and then that could make you aware that their account's been compromised. Again, that's sort of going up to that next level of cybersecurity, and you will likely incur costs, but again, we save in the long run, or definitely save in the long run, if you have a breach. So I touched on the automation. I thought I'd put that in again. So the applications coming out now are getting smarter. You're able to tailor alerts and responses a bit more granular on that. So what it does is it frees up people that may be a champion in the organisation or your IT department to not have to sift through all this data. They're able to basically, if they get alert, it will be relevant and action needs to be taken. All right. So going back to the staff, I just wanted to reiterate bringing cybersecurity into the culture of the business. So you do the phishing campaigns, you educate people on cybersecurity. It becomes regular in, I guess, their day-to-day work that they're aware that this stuff's going to happen. It's important that staff don't hide something or don't feel like if they click on a link in an email and then realise that it could be a phishing email, that they don't hide it. And what happens is basically they won't know if it is or not, and nothing may happen on the network. But as we see, like, the hackers are on for 100 days or sometimes 200 days before they're found. So, and then to backtrack all that way to find that it was someone or something happened 3 or 4 months or 6 months ago, there's a lot of work to update. So what you want is your people to come forward. If they click on something, they want to feel at ease. If they want to check to see if they do have a phishing email, if they clicked on an application or something that they think could be malicious, that there's someone that they can go to, and it may just be a champion in a department, or straight to the IT. They can, if it's a client of ours, we'll send a ticket into our help desk, and we do get a lot of tickets coming in where people are asking, is this a malicious email? So the next thing that I wanted to share with you, so these how security is getting integrated into departments through organisations. So I guess this is a more of a larger company, but previously security was a small part of an IT department, basically. So now what we're starting to see is companies that are switched on with cybersecurity. If they're big enough, they'll have a dedicated team that just looks after cybersecurity that sits outside of the IT department. And that's when you're starting to look at, monitoring logs and all of that sort of stuff. Security is still a fairly large part of IT, but now we're starting to see a component within all departments of businesses where there is someone there that is a bit of like I say, a security champion, or someone that is a lead within a department that people can go to. And that could be that person that sends those phishing emails and really targeting their department. They know what kind of emails they're going to get, so they can really target the type of emails for the team. And then they're also that person that the team can go to if they think there's a problem. So that slide there is, I guess, what a well-drilled team looks like that's aware of cybersecurity. So that's sort of moving towards the end. I see we've only got 10 minutes, so I've done pretty well with time there. Look, to be honest, there was nothing hugely surprising about the conference, which was, or what I found out in the conference, which was refreshing for us. we're on the right track. It's just a case of people, I guess, realizing the seriousness of cybersecurity. So summarising, just running through the essential 8. If you haven't heard of it, please check out our blogs. It's something that definitely we recommend. Looking at an MDM solution to really tick all the boxes under an MDM. Concentrate on that cultural side. So bring your staff along with the journey of cybersecurity. It does affect all staff. If they're accessing information online, if they're accessing emails, everyone does. Everyone is a target, essentially, and that's something that is key here. And it's key to move up that message up to management, because at the end of the day, if a company has a cybersecurity breach, is it a technical problem or is it a management problem? And I can tell you now, it is a management problem straight away. And we're seeing that with larger organisations. But as a small business owner myself, then I know that it's front and centre. If we have a breach, it is definitely a management problem. So moving to the EDR and the SEAM, again, something to consider. The cost is dropping on those solutions, and something if you're really concerned about cybersecurity, taking it to that next level, I would definitely investigate that more. I haven't gone into policies and procedures, so that's the I guess something that is part of the overall solution, and moving to something like an ISO 27001. They've just brought out 2022, which is the latest framework, a lot more targeted to companies and how companies work than the 2013 version was. But if you're on that journey, ticking the boxes with Essential 8 is part of that anyway. So definitely something to think about, and happy to answer any questions around ISO. We became ISO certified a couple of months ago now, a few months ago, so happy to answer any questions around that. All right, so that pretty much concludes what I have to say. We've only got a few minutes left, but if anyone's got any questions, please put them in the chat. Don't know if anyone from our team has anything else to add, but yeah, so that's pretty much it. We're not getting anything through there. We put a link to our 8 weeks of the Essential 8 in there as well. So please look into that. Yeah, well, if we don't have any questions, I think we might have one coming up now, which is good. Then yeah, but essentially the conference from 6 years ago, they were touching on the cultural side then, but that's just evolved. The technology around preventing breaches has evolved, but it's not going to stop a breach, and that's where this staff training and culture, I think, was the big takeaway, and that was the message that they were conveying for the majority of it. So if there's anything to get out of that, that's the message. All right. Well, I think we'll wrap it up. John, I don't know if you've got anything to add there, or.
And I'll just jump in. Hi, everybody. Actually, what we might do, I saw there's a few people maybe starting to type something there. If you want to, you can stick your hand up, and we can unmute if you just wanted to maybe ask a question directly. We can give you some mic access if you like, if that makes it easier. Just maybe let us know in the chat if you wanted to ask an audio question. Otherwise, we will wrap it up.
All right. Wonderful. All right. Well, thanks very much, everyone, for attending. And yeah, if you've got any questions at all, you can email me directly. Happy to answer, or anyone in the team. And happy to have the conversation with anyone. So that will be it. All righty. Thanks very much for that, everyone. Have a good day.